Hi, I'm Chris. After suffering from CFS for 6 years, I fully recovered. I created this healing program to guide and support you on your healing journey from ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related syndromes. If you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, I recommend starting from the beginning, as each video builds on the last. You can find them for free on my website at healing-space.online. If you've watched the entire video series up to this point, we've covered a lot together. We've explored what chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and post-COVID syndrome are, discussed their causes, and talked about ways we can move towards healing. It's been a lot of information. That is why in this video we'll summarize what we've learned so far. ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID are conditions that, although varied in their symptoms, share a common underlying issue: chronic stress and a dysregulated autonomic nervous system, ANS. This shared root cause is what often makes these illnesses feel so overwhelming and exhausting. Throughout our previous videos, we've explored why these conditions develop and persist. Essentially, our bodies have been subjected to too much stress for too long, reaching a point where the ANS becomes dysregulated. When this happens, it throws off the balance of our body system, leading to a range of physical and mental symptoms. Stress doesn't always look the same and can be both external and internal. External stressors might include things like work deadlines, relationship issues, or financial problems. Internal stressors, on the other hand, can come from within us, such as the way we think about ourselves, our worries, or even negative self-talk. Many times we might not even realize that these stressors are adding up. Over time, they build and create a stress load on our bodies. Our nervous system, which is designed to handle short bursts of stress, like the fight or flight reaction, can manage stress in small amounts. However, when stress is intense and prolonged, our system begins to struggle. Eventually, the accumulated stress becomes too much to bear, pushing our ANS over the edge. This is when our body goes into dysregulation and we start to experience the wide range of symptoms associated with CFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. This tipping point can sometimes be triggered by a particular event, a virus, an injury, or a traumatic experience. However, it's not this one trigger alone that causes our illness. The real problem lies in the accumulation of stress over time and the way we react to it. This is why focusing solely on the trigger often doesn't lead to lasting relief. Instead, we need to look at the big picture, which includes the overall stress load we're carrying and the effect it has on our nervous system. When symptoms start to appear, they themselves become additional sources of stress. It's natural to react to symptoms with frustration, impatience, or worry. After all, these symptoms impact our daily lives, making even simple tasks difficult. However, these reactions, while understandable, actually add to the stress cycle. Each time we react with frustration or anxiety, we increase our stress, which in turn intensifies our symptoms. This creates what we call a vicious stress cycle. where the symptoms and our reactions to them feed into each other, keeping us locked in a loop. This cycle of stress and symptom worsening makes the illness feel even more entrenched, as if there's no way out. What's crucial to understand is that the illness itself has now become a major stressor in our lives. While many of us were already under stress before we became ill, the illness now brings a whole new level of stress into our lives. And because of our lowered stress threshold, we tend to react even more strongly. This means that things that might not have been particularly stressful before are now much harder to handle. We might find ourselves more reactive, and this makes sense given our constant fatigue, pain, and unrefreshing sleep. In this worn-out state, we're now deeply stuck in the vicious stress cycle. While what we truly need is to reduce stress, our symptoms, heavy fatigue, low energy, and unrefreshing sleep only seem to increase. It feels like a paradox. The very thing we need to escape, which is excessive stress, is intensified by the illness itself. This cycle is particularly tough because it keeps pulling us back into stress instead of giving us room to recover. Understanding this cycle shows just how important it is to break it, even if it feels overwhelming. Our goal is to gently reduce stress one step at a time, to move closer to healing. Many of us try to find relief by focusing on the initial trigger, managing individual symptoms, seeking help from various doctors, or turning to quick fix solutions. It's completely natural to want answers and to try different treatments. However, many of these strategies don't lead to true healing because they don't address the root cause, which is excessive stress. Often, these approaches can actually add to our stress. When treatments don't work as we'd hoped, we end up feeling more frustrated, discouraged, and overwhelmed. This increases the very thing we need to reduce, stress, and can make us feel even more stuck. So, to break free from this cycle and move towards real healing, we need a different approach. What we need to do is focusing on the root cause, which is chronic stress and our dysregulated autonomic nervous system. This means shifting our perspective from trying to eliminate symptoms or finding the exact trigger to working on reducing overall stress. When we successfully reduce stress, our ANS will automatically return to a balanced, calm state. As our system gradually returns to normal functioning, the symptoms begin to fade naturally. So how do we reduce stress at its core? This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is a scientifically proven method for reducing stress. It helps us become aware of the ways we automatically react to stress and enables us to respond more calmly and intentionally. When we're mindful, we observe our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations without judgment. This practice helps us step out of the fight or flight reaction and shift towards the calmer, more balanced state. Mindfulness activates the parasympathetic rest and digest response, which is the opposite of the stress-driven fight or flight reaction. When we're in this relaxed state, our body can begin to heal naturally. Over time, as we respond to stress in healthier ways, the ANS moves away from dysregulation and symptoms lessen. In my own journey, mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, was the core element of my healing. MBSR, developed by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, is a structured program designed to teach mindfulness in a way that's accessible to anyone. It combines different mindfulness practices such as meditation, body awareness, and gentle movement to help reduce stress. For me, MBSR made all the difference. It showed me that stress comes in many forms and often goes unnoticed. It taught me that it's not just the stressors themselves that create stress, but primarily how we react to them. Through mindfulness, I learned to respond to stress with patience, acceptance, and compassion, instead of resistance or frustration. Over time, this shift allowed me to move away from other treatments and focus on reducing my stress at its core. Because I'm convinced that focusing on reducing stress is absolutely crucial for healing, I want to go over this idea again and simplify it by using a model. This will help make it even clearer. Here you can see that too much stress is the root cause of our illness. This then dysregulates our autonomic nervous system, which then causes our illness and our numerous symptoms. All we have to do in order to heal is to reduce stress. One of the most proven and effective ways to do this is applying mindfulness. Once we have decreased stress, our ANS will fall back into balance and become regulated once again. When this happens, our illness and symptoms will fade automatically. But what many of us tend to do is that we focus on trying to cure ourselves by focusing directly onto the illness or its symptoms. While this approach is understandable, it is ineffective. It is ineffective for two reasons. First, we don't address the root cause, which is too much stress. Second, it's often counterproductive because constantly trying different unsuccessful treatments can lead to disappointment, adding more stress rather than relieving it. Instead, mindfulness is effective because it directly addresses the root cause of our illness, which is too much stress. That is why the primary healing factor is mindfulness. But of course, there are secondary factors that can support us, such as medical care, alternative therapies, symptom management, pacing, social support, counseling or therapy, lifestyle adjustments, gentle physical activity, sleep hygiene, and healthy diet and nutrition. These are also factors that can reduce stress and therefore support us. But understanding and applying mindfulness is one of the biggest and most effective ways to reduce stress. Therefore, in my opinion, it makes sense to primarily focus on mindfulness when we are looking for lasting recovery and true healing from stress-related syndromes such as ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. My whole point here is that we need to work on reducing our stress. This needs to be our top priority. As long as we keep doing everything else but don't work on lowering our stress, I believe that we might not get the results we desire. I'm saying all this because I have been there. I invested so much time, energy, and money in various treatments and approaches, but they never really led to any sustainable relief or cure. And while they might give some relief to some people, they are mostly simply not that effective because they don't address and work on the root problem, which is excessive stress. In very simple words, I believe that the key to healing is to reduce stress. We don't need to tackle the illness or symptoms directly. By focusing on reducing stress through mindfulness, our system naturally starts to rebalance itself, which then leads to a gradual easing of symptoms and eventually recovery. Of course, this isn't an instant fix. It's a process that takes time, but it's achievable. This is exactly how I found my own path to healing. I simply focused on lowering my stress, moment by moment, as best as I could. And by reducing stress, I don't mean trying to eliminate it completely. Stress is a natural part of life, and there will always be stressors. The key is not to remove all stress, but to learn to respond to it in a calmer, more balanced way. Instead of letting stressors push our system into overdrive, our goal should be to handle them in ways that keep us in a steady, calm state. This is exactly what you will learn in this healing program. You know, at the end of the day, maybe the real question isn't so much about what got us into this illness, but what keeps us from recovering. The answer to what got us into our illness is usually a combination of factors that together overwhelmed our system with stress. These factors include our genetics, conditioning, internal and external stressors, and our reactions to those stressors. Often, there's also a specific trigger, like a viral or bacterial infection, an accident, trauma, or another stressful event that tips our system over the edge, marking the onset of our condition. To answer the question of what is keeping us from recovering, I believe again it's stress. This stress can often be hidden in the ways we habitually think, feel, and react, patterns that we didn't choose but learned over time. These automatic reactions can keep us in a state of stress without us even realizing it. The good news is that through mindfulness, we can start to recognize these stress-inducing patterns and replace them with calmer, more mindful ways of responding. This shift can help us move toward recovery by allowing our system to gradually find balance again. Ultimately, the most effective way to reduce stress and move towards healing is to allow this moment to be exactly as it is. This simple act of allowing, of being present, is the essence of mindfulness. And it's at the core of what you'll learn in this healing program. This is precisely why I created this healing program, to share what I truly believe to be the most effective approach to healing from CFS, fibromyalgia, and post-COVID syndrome. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into the healing program and its content, giving you a clear sense of whether it's right for you. If you'd like to continue, you can watch the complete introductory video series for free on my website at healing-space.online. This video series is designed to support you in healing from chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related post-viral fatigue syndromes. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and follow. Thank you, and see you in the next video.